Imagine a police officer stepping into a family's living room, not to stop a fight or make an arrest, but to confront something invisible. The crucifix that should be hanging over the doorway lies on the floor, twisted metal on shattered stone. A framed picture of Christ has been torn from the wall, as if by a violent hand. Somewhere down the dark hallway, a door slams again and again, even though everyone in the house is standing together. Shaking. This is not the beginning of a horror movie. It is what a real police inspector in Madrid wrote in his official report in the early hours of one cold November night in 1992. The address was a small apartment in the working-class district of Vallecas. The family who lived there claimed their dead daughter had never left. And on that night, for the first time, state authorities would write that something inside that home could not be explained. To understand what led to that night, we have to go back 2 years, to 1990, when 16-year-old Estefanía Gutiérrez Lázaro was still alive. She lived with her parents, Concepcion and Maximo, and her brothers and sisters in that same Vallecas apartment, in a plain concrete block like thousands of others on the outskirts of Madrid. They were a normal working-class Spanish family, Catholic but not fanatical. According to later interviews, reports agree that Estefanía was a cheerful girl, interested in boys, music, and like many teenagers of her time, the occult. One afternoon, at her school, she and a group of friends decided to try a Ouija board. Versions of the story differ on why. Some say they hoped to contact the boyfriend of a classmate who had died in a motorcycle accident. Others remember only a vague curiosity about death and spirits, the reckless kind teenagers think is harmless. The seance was held, according to testimonies, in a small and used classroom. The girls drew the board by hand on paper and used a glass upside down as a planchette. As they began to ask questions, a teacher reportedly walked in, angry at what she saw. She scolded them and, in some versions, grabbed the paper and tore it up. One widely repeated detail claims she smashed the glass, and that a strange smoke rose from it and drifted toward Estefanía's face, entering through her nose. This image has become central to the legend, though it cannot be independently confirmed. What can be confirmed is that soon after the Ouija session, Estefanía began to suffer disturbing symptoms. Her family later told journalists and paranormal researchers that she had sudden fainting fits, seizures, and terrifying hallucinations. She would describe shadowy figures at the foot of her bed, whispering her name. At times she barked, snarled, or crawled on the floor, seemingly unable to control her body. Doctors examined her. Neurological tests and psychiatric evaluations were carried out, according to later media reports, but no clear diagnosis appeared. Some physicians suspected epilepsy or a conversion disorder. Others spoke of stress. Her mother would later insist that medication did nothing, that the fits and visions only grew worse. At night, the family heard her scream that dark figures were calling her to the other side. Her younger siblings, frightened, sometimes reported seeing her held down by invisible hands. On August 13, 1991, after yet another episode, Estefanía was taken to the Gregorio Marañón Hospital in Madrid. She went into a sudden respiratory arrest and died shortly before midnight. She was 17. The official cause of death, as recorded, mentioned a sudden and unexpected asphyxia linked to convulsions, without a precise underlying illness. For the family, this only deepened the sense that something unnatural had taken her. The strange events, however, did not die with her. In the months after the funeral, the Vallecas apartment grew heavier, as if the air itself had thickened. According to the testimonies later given by the Gutiérrez Lázaro family, they began to hear unexplained knocks on the walls, always in sets of 3. Doors they were sure had been closed swung open in the night. Small objects vanished and reappeared in strange places. At first, they tried to explain everything away. Old buildings creak, plumbing rattles, people misplace things, but soon, their accounts say, the phenomena escalated. Lights turned on and off by themselves. Disembodied whispers echoed along the corridor, sometimes calling out the children's names. One of the girls reported feeling a cold breath against her ear while she slept. The family's dog refused to enter certain rooms and would stare at corners, growling, the hair on its back raised. Concepcion, the mother, began to wake to the sound of her dead daughter's voice, soft, pleading. Somewhere in the darkness, visits from friends and relatives did not calm the situation. According to their statements, Some of them also witnessed strange events. A cousin recounted seeing a dark, human-shaped silhouette move along the hallway and disappear into Estefania's former bedroom. One night, the family said, all the crucifixes in the house were found upside down. Another time, a picture of Estefania reportedly fell. The glass inexplicably burned on the inside, leaving the photograph untouched through it all, the parents argued. Grief, fear, and exhaustion wore them down. Their relationship deteriorated, and the atmosphere at home turned sour and volatile. Neighbors later told Spanish reporters that they often heard shouting, banging, and, at times, a girl's scream when there should have been no girl left alive in that apartment. By November 1992, things had reached a breaking point. The family claimed they were barely sleeping. Shadows moved where there should have been none. Objects slid across tables without being touched. And at the center of the storm, they felt, was the presence of their dead daughter. The most documented part of the Vallecas case began on the night of November 27, 1992. That evening, according to police and family accounts, a violent argument broke out inside the apartment. Objects were reportedly flying across the rooms. A heavy wardrobe door opened and slammed shut again and again without anyone near it. Terrified, the family called the emergency number when officers from the Policía Nacional arrived. They say they expected a domestic dispute. Instead, they found a shaken family gathered in the living room. The atmosphere, several officers later told journalists, felt oppressive, as if someone else were there. Sub-Inspector José Pedro Negri, who led the response that night, would become the best-known witness according to the official report later filed. The officers conducted an inspection of the apartment. What they claimed to see has made this case one of the most famous alleged hauntings in Spain, because it crossed a line few paranormal stories ever do. It entered the paperwork of the state. Negri wrote that one of the first anomalies they noted was a wooden crucifix that had somehow been ripped from the wall in the master bedroom. The metal Christ figure had been separated from the cross and lay on the floor. The stone base, the family said, had not simply fallen. It was found in pieces, as if something had smashed it. Near it hung a religious picture that, according to the report, showed visible scratch marks and a brownish stain spreading across the image as they moved through the rooms. Officers reported sudden noises that had no clear source. A loud bang echoed from the balcony, yet when they rushed outside, there was nothing there. In one of the rooms, a heavy wardrobe door opened slowly by itself, then slammed shut with force. The officers checked for drafts or people hiding and found none. Some later admitted that, although trained to face armed criminals, they felt genuinely afraid in that small, dimly lit flat. The official police document used cautious language, but it was clear. The officers stated that certain phenomena they witnessed were not able to be explained. The report leaked to magazines and newspapers, turning the Vallecas apartment into a reluctant legend. Paranormal investigators arrived with tape recorders and cameras. The family, already traumatized by the loss of Estefanía, now lived under the gaze of strangers and the weight of a national ghost story. Over time, the phenomena reportedly diminished, but the family never truly escaped. Interviews years later show eyes that still search corners before answering. Some skeptics argue that grief, suggestion, and family tension created the perfect storm for misinterpretation. Others point to the police file and ask, why would trained officers lie?